Tell me you can hear the music.
No,
You can't hear the music?
no,
Uh,
I can.
okay, no, that's because I forgot to do something. So we got to go back. I hate it when I do this, Corey.
Oh, you're good, man.
That's okay. Let's start again here.
We'll survive it.
We're waiting to make
Now
some
you'll be able
money
to hear the music.
on the show so that we can hire a producer.
We're only like 960 subscribers short of being able to do that. Can you hear it now?
Yes, we.
Perfect. But we have the best theme music of any hockey podcast.
Guys and they're talking about hockey. Two bald guys and they're talking about hockey. Two bald guys and they're talking about hockey. Two bald guys talking about hockey. Two bald guys and they're 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 talking about hockey. And they're bald. And there's hockey. Hockey.
Yeah. Hey, DCHL, we are here and we have a special treat for you. We have the one and only Jean Laverne here with us today to talk hockey. And we brought in another guy, Cory Lavalette from Vegas. Although, Cory, I will say I noticed that you are no longer listed on the website as a GM of the Vegas Golden Knights.
I'm the shadow GM.
I think Adam has done the end around on you and you are out.
Yeah.
We had Adam on a few weeks ago. He was great. So
Yeah.
welcome, Cory, and thank you for coming on. It's great to have you.
Thanks, guys. Good to be with you guys. Good to chat.
Okay, we are gonna talk Pacific Division preseason predictions. We have Cory, the GM of the Vegas Golden Knights, the only GM of the Vegas Golden Knights. We're gonna kick Adam out of the league temporarily. And so I don't know, Jean, what do you want to start off by saying?
Well, welcome to the show. We've been trying to connect with you for a while, and that hasn't happened yet. But it's
Go
awesome to have
figure,
you
the
on.
guy who works in hockey media is
I
busy
know.
during
We're like
when we're running shows.
during a hockey show. Like, I don't understand how you weren't making us a priority.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's awesome to have you on, and we were having a chat before, and it's I love talking hockey, so
Which is
Same.
how we ended up with this shit.
yes.
So there you go. I've just posted the link live so people can see what we're doing. Okay. So I guess we can get started here. I have a little horribly constructed PowerPoint that I will bring up. And we will go into the slideshow mode because it looks prettier that way from the beginning. You can all see that, boys?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is just go through each team one by one, talk about them, some good, some bad. I guess that's really what the Pacific Division was some good teams and some bad teams. Nothing really in the middle there.
So I'm going to predict that the other three divisions are going to have good teams and bad teams also.
Bold prediction.
Bold predictions here. Write that down.
Hot takes.
Hot takes, yes. There we go. Okay, so we'll start off with Anaheim. This is the one of the bad teams. Although I will say they're going to win some games this year. Like they've got some better players behind them.
Go ahead, Cory.
I don't hate their depth. I feel like, up front there's not a lot of weaknesses. There might not be a superstar player. But I like, that they've got, probably, 9 or 10 guys that you're like, yeah, those guys should all be in your lineup and playing for you. So I don't hate the lineup. The goaltending, obviously, Joseph Wall had a really good year last year, and that gives the goaltending a little bit of a boost. The big thing might be, the defense doesn't have that high end guy. The top pairing, those are both probably closer to second pairing guys, 4 or 5 guys on a good team than top pairing guys. So, but there's some stuff to be excited about there, right? Simon Nemec will
Yeah.
probably become a good player in the coming years if he gets a little more opportunity with New Jersey in the real NHL. And then I don't hate the lineup, and it's not like it's loaded with old guys or anything. There's some good youth there, and opportunity to get better, and maybe hang around the playoff picture a little bit.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple guys that I think didn't get the rating they deserved. I think Gooley and Byram to me should be higher, rated higher, not a lot higher, but just a little bit higher. But I agree with you. I think they're more of a second pairing. If you look at the Ducks lineup, they don't have a first line and they don't have number 1 and 2 defensemen. So everything to me starts with the second, third line, fourth line, and their defensemen are second, third pairing, and fourth pairing defensemen. They don't have the number ones. They don't have a number 1 goalie. They don't have a number 1 line. They don't have a number 1 pairing defenseman, in my opinion. They have some guys that have potential to get there, but they're just not there now. So.
I will say Gustav Nyquist is a sim beast. He had like an 80-point season for me one year. Like, it was ridiculous. So, but let me ask you guys this. Do you see Bowen Byram or Caden Gooley ever being number 1 level defenseman in the NHL? I see them as second pair guys in the NHL. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think that either of those guys is ever going to elevate to that level. Maybe Gooley can become a top pairing guy, maybe like outside shot. But I don't think, I think that's, as Sean said, that's a obvious hole here, is that there's not that top end talent here. And there's not anybody that you look at and you say they're going to be top end talent. Trevor Zegras, maybe 2 years ago, you're saying that's a guy who could be, the best player on your team. New fresh start for him. So things could change as far as what he becomes as an NHL player. But for right now, he's on a good team. He's a, third or maybe a fourth line player right now. And he's up on the second line with this team. So that's the hard part here, is that there's not a whole lot of, upside in the lineup now. And then I don't feel like there's a ton in the prospect pool either. So, that's a little bit of a tough thing. I think they have Nick Blankenberg. So that's maybe somebody there who can give you a little bit of upside, but there's just not a whole lot to be super excited about.
Yeah. Do you want anything else you want to add before I switch to the next team? I feel like we've said a lot about Anaheim.
Yeah. Looking forward to Jake O'Brien joining the Ducks.
Yes. I am a big Jake O'Brien fan. Okay. Calgary, seeing much better graphics now. You're welcome, Calgary.
Yes.
Playoff team for sure. High level talent. Connor, I look at this team and I go, number 1 player, Connor McDavid, number 1 goalie, Connor Hellebuyck.
To me, it's almost the opposite problem, right? I think they have, 4 really good top end forwards. McDavid and Keller are great. Lucas Raymond, I think, is going to be a star. Stützle, I think, is on the cusp of being a star. And then after that, there's not a whole lot to be excited about up front. I like Luostarinen as a third or fourth liner. He's a good player. Connor Garland's fine. Lafreniere, I'm curious to see what he becomes, especially as the Rangers kind of, maybe fall apart a little bit in these next couple of years with their aging and, obviously Panarin being a free agent soon. And then the defense, Uyghur is maybe a little bit overrated in my opinion. I don't think he's, if we're talking overall rating, an 88 player. And then the rest of the guys, there's not anybody there I'm really excited about. But if you have a great goalie, you can do great things. And if you have Connor McDavid, you can do great things. So there's going to be games they're going to win just because of those 2 guys. And that's going to give them, essentially a puncher's chance every game. So you don't ever want to discount a team with those 2 guys that are the best in the world at their positions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
No,
No?
you're the brains. I'm just here to look pretty.
So completely agree with you. It's top heavy with those four guys in Alabak. And then like there's potential with Cousins, there's potential with Lafreniere, potential with Ferreira, um, and yeah, Yaffello or Yaffello. Those guys have potential, but they just haven't panned out yet.
I a fellow. Jean.
IFLO. Okay, I don't know if you know. I can't pronounce players' names. So
Yeah, I will agree on Farivari. That is a good point. Is that he's got a lot of potential. The thing is it's not helping you a whole lot right now.
no,
Yeah.
no. So those guys, I expected all of the guys that I mentioned to be much better than they are right now. So they haven't panned out like that everybody expected them to pan out. So that's one of the things that hurts. And what hurts even more is that they're $6-7 million players right now. So their value is not very good until they start to pan out. So, but when you start with that first line and you have that goalie, you're a contender.
Yeah. I will say the two weaknesses that I see with this team, and I mean, this is being hypercritical, is the back end of the lineup. Like the bottom four defense, especially the bottom pair defense, is pretty suspect. And like Kevin Rooney and Miles Wood on your fourth line. But if that's your biggest complaint on a contending team, I think it's still a contending team. And I will say I would be worried about David Rittich for what is it, 17 games you got to play him for. So
Say Dave.
Yeah. So, but this is I mean Tim Stützle on your second line. There aren't a lot of teams in this league where Tim Stützle is your second line center. So, I mean, great team. So,
Agree.
Okay,
Yep.
next up is Edmonton, and I feel like I don't want to talk a whole lot about Edmonton here. There are a lot of bad players. They do have Anze Kopitar, who the rumor is that they have traded. Do I say what team it is?
Yeah.
Has it been public? Everyone knows who it is, or is it just us?
Oh, well, if people don't know, they'll know when they watch the show.
Yeah, well, Flax, New York Islanders, getting Anze Kopitar. That's the rumor. Or if you didn't know that, act surprised. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about Edmonton. They got a bunch of bad players they're trying to lose because they want to win Gavin.
But remember that Edmonton made a run at the Cup 2 years ago. So he went all in and he made it to the Cup final, didn't win. So he's rebuilding his team after putting all his chips in to make that Cup run.
Yeah, I think this is probably the worst team in the division. And then if you minus Kopitar from it, it obviously gets even tougher. You're all of a sudden your best forward is maybe Dylan Holloway, who's on a contender, is a good fourth liner, maybe a fringe third liner. And then the defense is Ryan McDonough is fine as a second pairing shutdown guy, but for him to have to carry the load, Ristolainen, showed a little bit of upside last year after the coaching change, I thought, in Philadelphia. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, you got a bunch of guys who are kind of retreads, Nate Schmidt.
Have you ever talked to the Buffalo sports media about Ristolainen?
A little bit. I know that I went to college with their former PR guy. So
I listen to Mike Shope almost every day. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's the WGR radio guy.
Yeah.
Whatever time I'm driving my car. And I can't tell you how happy that he was the day they traded Ristolainen. I think it was to Philadelphia straight in out to Philly.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised about him because what I know about him is he's actually a really good quote and he's a pretty honest guy. So really, that's
Rasmus Ristolainen, you mean?
Yeah. So I'm always a little like, if a guy's honest, even if he's kind of gruff, I don't really mind, dealing with him. Stefan Nason is kind of a gruff guy at times, but he'll often give you a good quote. He'll often answer you honestly. So I'm a little surprised. I know that Ristolainen has had a few moments where he's been prickly.
Oh,
But
I was referring to just how he was happy because he didn't
oh,
like
he's bad.
the badness of
Right.
Rasmus Ristolainen.
Well, yeah, that's
But
definitely a real thing. Um,
no.
yeah, that was one of the few moves that Buffalo's made in recent years that hasn't gone on to that guy winning a Stanley Cup. So
Sorry,
Yes.
Rasmus, on the one in 1 million chance you're listening, I have nothing against you personally. Sorry. And neither does Mike Shope, I'm sure. Okay, and Jean,
We're moving on.
we're
That's
moving
enough of
on.
Edmonton.
Okay. Okay, this is where it gets a little more interesting because Los Angeles tore it down after 2 years of having a really good team that failed in the regular season. They said, screw this shit. We're tearing it down and we're rebuilding. And I wish I'd put something about the players he's acquired, because he's acquired some really high end.
I don't understand why he would, because the guys, they like his team wasn't like full of guys that were going to be UFAs were leading the team. So
I think when he took over the team from JL, Kalen just wanted to put his stamp on everything, and this was the easiest way to do it.
well, we know Kalen loves a prospect, so I'm assuming that's part of this too. Yeah, not the top line's not bad. I actually don't hate the top line. Those top three forwards, but after that, you're looking at a bunch of bottom six guys. The
Yeah, I
defense,
actually don't mind this team. Like it's
yeah,
again, in the division it's in, it's not a playoff team, but
yeah,
again, to me, the top line is a second line at best.
yeah,
It's not a first line. The
but he traded away his top line players.
yeah.
Fox and Hamilton are top pairing defensemen, in my opinion. Um, uh, but then after that, it becomes, you know, whole Justin Hall and Jake Bean to me should not be in your lineup if you want to compete. So
And
we
there's a little bit of bad luck here too, because Hampus Lindholm is a top pairing guy, and he's just had his injury troubles in the NHL. So you get kind of take a bad hit there, and then
Mhm.
even Dursey was off to a great start last year before getting hurt too. So that defense could be a lot better in the top four, but to your point, that bottom pairing, you have to shelter the bottom pairing, and the bottom, really the bottom six is, those are guys that should be, seventh defenseman, 13th forward types.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard a rumor that Adam Fox is on the trade block, and
Oh,
there was a potential deal happening for Adam Fox going out of
you
LA. So
you're like got little irons in all the different fires, eh, Jean?
so we'll see if Fox does get traded, but
So we'll start calling you the Cory Lavalette of the DCHL.
yes.
Insider.
Yeah, the
Insider.
insider. Okay, San Jose. This team, it's definitely weakening every year, but it's still. I see this as, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. This is the fourth best team in the division, but it's still a high end, high quality team. I like
Yeah.
Kaprizov. Tavares is your second line center. This might be the last year you can get away with that. Nick Paul, who I traded to him. Third line center, that's fine. And Quinn Hughes, Josh Morrissey, top pairing, that's not bad.
Yeah, I like the top end talent, and I like the depth overall. There's really just a couple guys here that are, kind of, to me, questionable to have in your lineup. The two wings on the fourth line, you're kind of like, you wouldn't, Do you want to have Julian Gauthier or Alex Turcotte in the lineup? Maybe not. I think Fox is a great fourth line center, kind of perfect. And then the defense is, has that great top pairing and then has good depth. It's not a great uh, middle pairing, I would say, depending on who's going to play there. But you have four competent guys in the bottom six, and then you have good, solid, deep goaltending where you could go to either guy and expect to get good performances. Again, kind of like what we said on Lindholm, you kind of get a little screwed here by Saros having a down year just because he played for a bad team. So, but I don't hate the lineup. You have top end talent. You've got, if you can have a great player on your first line and a great number one defenseman, you got a shot, and a great goalie. I feel like he's a little underrated, but I don't hate this lineup. I've got them, easily making the playoffs. I think they're the third best team in the division.
There you go.
And Dante Fabro, if he plays as well as he did last year, again this year, his rating is going to get better. So he's finally breaking out because he was expected to be much better than he's been, and until last year, he hasn't broken out. And last year he played really well. So I think if he continues his development, he's going to be a good asset for San Jose.
The problem is, I think, to your, it's a good lineup, but that's the only guy that you really look at and you can be excited about getting better. Nick Suzuki, I think, is, a really good young player you can count on to be on your top line for a long time. Hero Kaprizov is too, but I don't think either of those guys are going to take another step to another level. Neither of them is going to, I guess Kaprizov could, win an MVP. He could win a Hart Trophy. He was probably going to do that last year until he got hurt. But, 93 overall rating is still, near the top of the pile in the whole league. You're not going to get much better there. There's not a lot of young guys here to be excited about. And, Steve mentioned Tavares, and he's going to take a step back. Lindholm hasn't been good in Boston. Troy Terry is probably maxed out. There's not a lot of guys there to be excited about that are going to elevate to another level.
Yep, I agree. This is as good as this team is going to be. And as Steve said, it keeps going down.
And they've had cap issues the last few years. Like I think this team, if they don't win it this year, I think their window is closing, not opening.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, agreed.
Okay, so Seattle, our biggest fan is watching this, I'm sure, live right now. I will say this lineup is probably better than last year's lineup at this point, but there's nothing here. This team is not. It's at best the fifth best team in the division. At best.
Yeah, that might be generous. I think the problem here is, you've only got maybe 4 guys that you're excited about in the future. You've got a lot of aging guys with a lot of miles on their skates, right? I mean, you look at that top 6
on long-term contracts.
Yeah, and that top 6 outside of Connor Zary, you're looking at guys that are all on the, I won't even want to say the back 9 of their careers. They're like looking at the clubhouse. And Corey Perry's already 3
They're
years
in the 19th hole shooting back.
That's what I was going to say. Corey Perry's already 3 drinks in on the. But there's a couple guys here that that fourth line has some good young players that you can maybe expect to be better. Jackson Lacombe had a great year last year. We'll see if he can live up to the hype again. Dobish had a good year last year, but he's, stuck behind, I think, a better goalie. Tristan Jarry's a disaster. In every way. So
understated disaster.
Yeah. From what I understand, not only a goaltending disaster, but a locker room disaster. So, there's just not a whole lot to be really excited about here. Speaking of that, Eric Hollum may be the worst locker room guy I've ever been around. But anyway, but one of the best nicknames in hockey. Do you guys know Eric Hollum's nickname?
No.
No.
Is it better than Red Light Rasico?
No, but that's an excellent one. But it's equally derisive, which is Hall of Famer because he thinks he's hot shit. So
Oh,
he has that derisive nickname because he always thought he should be, he's better maybe than he is. So yeah, tough look in Seattle. Obviously, they've drafted some guys this year, a whole bunch of draft picks. So, maybe there's hope on the horizon if the GM can stay patient there, I guess. But this lineup here is, if not for Edmonton, is they're going to be right near the bottom of the league, I think, but
yeah.
maybe not the bottom of the division, thanks to Edmonton.
Yeah.
So what I'm afraid of is that the GM will not be patient, that he will trade some of his prospects because he already traded his draft picks for the next 3 years. So some of his prospects to get second line players and second pairing defensemen try to win now. And that he's just not going to get the value out of those players that the prospects he has. I've been saying for quite a bit that he needs to stay patient and wait. So because a rebuild takes years. And
when Cory,
in
when you
hockey.
and Adam took over Vegas, you guys came in. I really liked and appreciated what you guys did. You came in with a long-term plan, and it took I think 3 years before you really started to see things coming together. I think it was your fourth year where you were. Did you make the playoffs in the fourth year, or was it the fifth year?
I think it was the fourth year. And yeah, I mean, and that continues today. I think you have to be long-term thinking. And we'll talk about our team, obviously, and I can talk about the big trade we made this offseason. But I think you need to be thinking into the long term all the time. You can't just think into the long term when you're bottoming out. I think you always have to be thinking, is this player the best for me long term? And right now in Seattle, there's not a whole lot of long-term thinking. So that's my big concern right now is you've got, David Perron, Jordan Stahl, Kevin Hayes, Brendan Gallagher. I mean, all those guys, if they retired at the end of this NHL season, would anybody be surprised? I mean, they could all be one and done if one bad injury or, not even like a totally horrific injury that anybody would lose their career to. Just, there's enough tread off those tires there that you do worry a bit about where things are at in this lineup. Ryan Graves, same thing. Like as a guy who's wore the tread, we were talking earlier about Ryan Lindgren before we started, and Ryan Graves is kind of the same guy, like a guy who played so hard for 6 years or so and just beat the crap out of his body. So that's my concern here, is that there's a lot of bodies here that are, on that back end of their career.
Yeah.
I almost think this is my hot take. I almost think it's to his advantage if these guys that you're talking about retire, so he can get out of these contracts because I mean, Brendan Gallagher on a 6-year contract, oh my God, David Perron, the more these guys linger in the league, you're going to have to keep eating those contracts, and it's a roster spot, and it's part of your cap. And I know the cap's going up, but do you really want Brendan Gallagher when he's 3 years from now, when his rating is 74 and
but yeah,
Right.
there's no way that Gallagher, Perron, Stahl, and Hayes are going to be in the NHL in 3 years. There is no way. Like Corey Perry, it's all of those guys. I wouldn't have been shocked if they retired. They were retired already, and then I'm not shocked. I won't be shocked if they retire at the end of this year. So,
Yeah, and then
hope they do.
Yeah, and the even we just talked about Lindgren and Ryan Graves. Chris Tanev is the same kind of guy who eventually, all the magic, super glue and stuff they use to keep that guy together is going to fall apart, and he's going to break down just because of the way he plays. It's not a knock on the player. It's just if you play that way, your shelf life is limited, and there's too many of those guys on this roster.
Oh,
Mhm.
Chris Tanev is 100% going to be a Robidas Island kind of guy that finishes off a contract on the long-term IR. Sorry, do
Yeah.
you? I assume you know the term Robidas Island. I know.
Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It,
Actually, Stefan Robidas' son is a Hurricanes prospect, so
Oh,
and
cool.
didn't Robida play for the Hurricanes?
he did
Or
not
did
know.
no?
But his son got called up last year and scored a goal actually. So he's a little guy, just like his dad. He's a
Mhm.
little fire hydrant. He's a forward. He's not a defenseman, but um, yeah, nice kid, good kid.
Cool. Okay.
Born in Plano, Texas, thanks to his dad playing for the Stars.
There you
No.
go. Okay. Vegas, here we are. Okay.
This looks
First of all,
familiar.
yeah,
For-
I wasn't sure where you were putting Mason McTavish because he's not on this and he wasn't in your thingamajigger,
Right.
your depth chart. So where would you put Mason McTavish? Let me ask that question first and foremost.
Yeah, I think probably what's going to happen is he's probably going to start off as our second line center. Matt Boldy will move out to the wing. We'll decide, which of Boldy and Dorofeyev gets to play with those two big guys at the top, if that's how we keep things together. But we're excited about, that's a tough trade. To trade Matthew Tkachuk um, we didn't take it lightly, but to all these conversations we've just been having, and I mean, we saw it at the end of last season and we see it at the start of what's going to be this season, is that's a guy who plays the game really hard, and you got to start thinking about his body and are you ready to make a long-term commitment to him when that first contract is up.
Mhm.
And there was a good opportunity here to cash in, get a guy like McTavish who's going to be I'm praying for a bridge deal here so that we're able to get him tied down at a reasonable offer for the next few years, and then we add Morgan Riley as part of that trade too, which really solidifies us. We don't have, I think the bottom four of our defense is a bit of a weakness. I don't love some of the ratings we've gotten, but I feel like that top pairing, and I don't know that necessarily they're going to play together. We might split them up so they can each carry a pairing, but not
Yeah, I
carry
feel like you
a
have
pair.
to actually.
But I think overall there's not a weak point. There's not a weak spot on the defense, so I'm happy with that. But we definitely needed to upgrade defense, so that was on top of getting McTavish, who I like a lot, I think is going to be a really good top six center. We also we were stacked at the wings, so I think that really gives us a little boost on defense that we've needed, which is funny for a team that has had Zach Werenski and other Rasmus Dahlin at times, and and traded some of those guys away. But happy about Broberg and the jump he took last year, and obviously I think we have the best defenseman in hockey, and then two of the better forwards in hockey too. So I think we're in good position here. The question is, are we going to be able to elevate in the middle of that lineup, and be better? So.
And I will give pat on the back, Jean, as a drafting phenom like you are. Dmitry Voronkov was drafted as a redraft by Vegas a few years back. He is the only player in DCHL history to be drafted 3 separate occasions, and you guys were the last ones and the best ones to take him. So there you go.
Yeah, we've done a pretty good job, I think, of getting some guys that are off the beaten path a little bit. Dorofeyev, I don't think anybody saw him being what he's become. That's been a really, really good draft pick for us.
I had to look him up today.
He scored, he's almost scored 40 goals last year, and he could very well be playing with Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner this year. So excited about really, really good finisher. I know we've gotten knocked on Tolvanen in the past, but I like what he is as a goal scorer in a bottom 6 role. JT Compher trade didn't work out as well as we would have liked. But we've got McTavish. I think Wenberg's a really useful player. And then those two horses up front, I think Eichel and Nylander, two of the better all-around players in the league. So we're really We traded for Nylander kind of like we did with Kachuk. We got Nylander in a deal for Panarin, thinking ahead, trying to be like, all right, how do we, avoid getting this guy on the downslope of his career? And we got Nylander out of that. So
And you got him on a great contract too.
barely under the wire. It was
Like hours.
thank
I had GMs, Cory, messaging me complaining that the contract, and I was like, guys, I will screenshot this to you. But I got the contract for
we
Nylander
were we were
like
on
hours
messages with
before
you.
it got.
Mhm. As soon as the window opened to sign him, we signed him because we knew that there was a big deal coming. So
Yeah.
um, that was an important deal for us, because if that number goes way up, things change a whole lot with our whole team. The other big change is, Markstrom leaves as a free agent, but we feel pretty good about Aiden Hill. We added Calvin Pickard,
If I
who I
spelled
think
it right.
is a no one extra C, but that's okay. Um, that's the editor in me. So I think that solidifies our backup situation a little bit. And then we also have Tarasov, who is going to be the backup in Florida this year. And I think he needed a reboot after some tough years in Columbus. And I like his talent a lot. And then Jesper Wallstedt is in the wings too. We'll see how he does now that he'll finally not be buried because Marc-Andre Fleury keeps deciding to play another year. So I think, in goal, we have get a couple more years of Aiden Hill. And then the hope is that Wallstedt can become the number one in Minnesota and hopefully become our number one goalie. And then maybe Tarasov is a surprise too, as if he plays well and Bobrovsky's contract winds down, maybe he becomes a number one goalie too.
Yeah.
Solid team. I love how you build your team. As I said before, I look at how teams went from, uh, building to being a contender. So I've looked at your team, and I love the trades that you make. You look ahead, as you mentioned a few times, to see, okay, like, I'm not gonna wait until that guy's in the last year of his contract, or he's gonna walk away without us being able to sign him. You trade the guys before their values start to go down, and then you continue to build. And that's tough to do, because you have to, take chances, because guys don't always pan out. We talked about Calgary, Lafreniere. We
Yeah,
all thought Lafreniere was going to be superstar. He didn't pan out yet. Dylan
right.
Cousins. I thought he would be a superstar at this point, and they just haven't panned out. So it's tough to make these deals. But I love how you build the team. Um, and it's like,
And
to
it's a
me,
mix of young and old. It's a
yeah.
mix of young and old. And
So
that's what you need.
yeah. So
Yeah, and I mean,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and we have some of those guys too. Like, we drafted Kevin Korchinski pretty high, and that hasn't gone well yet. You're hopeful that, kind of the way Chicago misdeveloped him by having him in the NHL that first year, that, maybe the last year in the AHL where he spent most of it there, but now they've got a couple more defensemen who are maybe ahead of him. So, still got high hopes for him, but that's a little bit of a tough one. But Gavin Brindley, I think, is a good prospect, and we try not to trade away our first round picks. We try to make those picks because I think it's important to continuously have, a future. You can't just, we still have Jackson Smith and Oliver Moore and Trevor Connolly, and Jack Devine was a late round pick for us, and he tore up the NCAA the last couple years, and he's turned pro now for Florida. And given their cap situation, I think there's a pretty good chance that he's going to get to play there because of that. So excited about some of those guys, and we'll see, how Brett Berard does and stuff now that he'll get a bigger role with the Rangers. And
Well, do you watch our post draft shows that we did? I don't know if
I
you
do
did.
I do my best to. Yes, I don't know if I
Okay,
watched it
because we
this year.
talked a lot about what you guys do, and your team, and I don't like, I'm crediting both of you guys, and your assistant GM, the cute dog that lays at your feet while you're drafting. You guys always seem to come away with, from the draft, solid picks, and it's like, go back and watch the show if you don't, because that's really what we've noticed. Like Jackson Smith this year, Like, like he just lands at your feet and you just pick him up. And
Mhm.
you go back and you look at your history of drafting. It's just, of course they took him.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I know everybody loved the Trevor Connolly pick because of some of the stuff he's gone through, but that's a diminished asset that even if in a year and a half we see an opportunity to trade him or something when he's, blowing up as a player, you have to look at these guys as assets. You got to kind of separate a little bit from the personal stuff, especially since we're twice removed from it, really, right?
Yeah.
We're not actually drafting real people. We're drafting
Mhm.
computer simulations based on real people. So, that stuff, when a guy like that, who's a top 7 talent in the draft, maybe falls, 3 times lower than that, I think sometimes you take a chance on that stuff. And
I'll ask you this, and I don't want you to comment any further, but have you met him?
I have
Trevor
not.
Connolly?
No,
Okay.
I have not. I have not. Um, no. So, but I feel like, we've got a couple guys that, could still develop into, outside of those guys that have a shot. But we've been really happy with, you mentioned Voronkov, really happy with how he's developed. And I know we get knocked for Tolvanen, but I think really he's become a good physical third line 20 goal scorer. Dorfiev's been a wonderful. Matt Boldy, I loved getting him because I think he's a superstar.
How many guys are in your lineup that you drafted?
Let me see here. Dorfiev, Voronkov, Tolvanen. I think we drafted Lawrence. I don't know if we drafted him or yeah, we drafted Lawrence, and we drafted him totally because I met the kid and he's an electric kid, just one of my favorite people in all of hockey. We drafted Lundestrom, um, drafted Chatfield, drafted Samuelson, and then we've got some of the younger guys, Wallstead and but I mean, part of using your draft picks is then turning those draft picks into better players. The Boldy trade was the Dahlin trade. We had drafted Dahlin and we ended up getting 2 assets for one. And I thought Matt Boldy would be a star, and I think that's happening. And it certainly doesn't hurt that he gets to play alongside Kaprizov, and it certainly doesn't hurt that he's on a great contract. So, um, I like what we've done with that stuff is held on to some guys and then used some other guys to bolster our lineup in different ways. Getting Jack Eichel for Jack Hughes, I think.
In one of my favorite trades ever on the draft floor.
Yeah,
I remember that trade, and I could feel was it Philadelphia GM at the time?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
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 one of
yeah.
our least favorite people. Just sort of vomiting at because he figured he had you guys screwed, and then he made that trade. I loved it. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean that. Then we didn't even pursue that trade. That was San Jose being like, I need to get rid of a high-priced asset,
Because he was over the cap. Yeah, he
and
had
I
to do
love
it.
and I love Eichel. I think Eichel's game, and when Buffalo traded him, I could not believe it because I'm just like, you have a superstar player here who's been overshadowed by Connor McDavid, and one of those guys has won a Stanley Cup and one hasn't.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and Buffalo tanked to get him,
Yeah,
and
yeah, they
things
blew it.
just fell apart. Things just
Yeah.
fell apart.
Mhm.
So, okay. So, anything you want to add, John?
Yes. To me, I think you need to add one more defenseman, um, and maybe a forward, like it doesn't like a second or bottom of the lineup, second line player, or a third line player that could go between the second and third line. But I think if you add a defenseman, that will make that team like really tough to beat. Also, just want to mention, I don't know if you know this, but I hate it when you guys are ahead of me in the draft because for some reason you guys always draft my guys. So
Well, sorry.
Well, start
Always happy to trade to flip picks with you and then gain more assets. So
start losing more to them, Jean, and then you're always picking ahead of them.
right.
Okay,
Sure.
we'll move to I got Vancouver and Vegas in the wrong order here, but here's Vancouver, obviously another contending team. I mean, Leon Draisaitl, one of the top five, easily top five players in the NHL. And I guess the only question, Jean, you're telling me that Jeremy Swayman's been traded or potentially has been
Yes,
traded.
he has been traded.
But this is, one of the top teams. We'll discuss where we think they are. They're not my top team in the division. I know one of you guys thinks they're the top team in the division. But they're a contender for sure. A Stanley Cup contender.
Yeah,
Go
great
ahead, Cory.
lineup. Great lineup. I mean, you got superstar talent at the top, I think. You know, maybe a little long in the tooth. There's a couple young guys there to like. The Josh Norris is obviously, if he can stay healthy.
That's
But
a big if.
yeah, right. But a little bit the same problems we have, where I think the bottom six isn't great. I think they have probably a better, top six than we do. But I like their defense. I think, everybody's kind of slotted right where they need to be. The goaltending's a little bit thinner, and then you lose if you're going to lose Swayman. Kachekhov's a good 1B goalie, but can he really carry the water for you? I would have said that about our goalie too, but I think Aiden Hill's proven to be a number one. But I really like, the way the whole roster is built, and a good all the way down the lineup. And Draisaitl's an absolute superstar. So you're going to have to replace Mark Stone soon. I worry a bit about Konechny. I'm one of my favorite players to watch in the whole league. But I do worry about that rugged style he plays and how long he's going to hold up for. But there's an awful lot to like about the top nine, about all six defensemen. Obviously Brent Burns, and he's a little long in the tooth too. But really good third pairing, just good bangers down there on the third pair that can kill penalties for you. We'll see if the goaltending holds up.
Jean?
I think this is a really, really good team. It's built well. It's another team that started at the bottom when the GM took over, because it was a rebuilding team at that point, and he built it into a Stanley Cup contender. Top six are really, really good, and as you said, Cory, the slotting of the defensemen to me are really good. I would switch Mikola with Burns. Hopefully, you'd get some of the chemistry from Forsling and Mikola helping out with that. But I think Romanov would help Burns fix some of Burns' defensive liabilities right now.
What's his defensive rating, DF rating? Do we know?
No.
I got it right here. I
No.
can look it up 1 second.
But yeah, so I think to me this is an awesome team. Like really,
So
really good.
he's an 81, so that's actually
That seems kind of high.
that's better than Mikola and better than Werenski.
Yeah.
Burns actually had he actually moved into more of a shutdown role last year, so I can buy that a bit. It's his offense that's really dropped off. And he's maybe, to me, overrated on offense a bit here. The 78 passing, I don't think, he really should be rated higher than like Gus Forsling, who's a great player. The top three defensemen on this team are all number one defensemen as far as I'm concerned. Forsling probably deserves a higher rating than he has. Seider, I'm a little up and down on, but I also understand that he's kind of thrown into the deep end over and over again by an overrated GM. So
I'm glad somebody else is saying that too, because I've been thinking that for years now.
And I don't mean the GM of Vancouver, obviously. I mean his real life.
No,
GM.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think everyone on this call at least knows that you're talking about.
I knew who you were talking
a
about.
guy who went to my wife's high school, as a matter of fact. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the top teams, I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip to the next one, which is our final predictions here. I'll start off and we'll go through each level at a time here. I have Calgary at 1. Jean, you have Vancouver. Cory, you have Vegas. Little Homer-itis there, maybe, but I just see Calgary as having the best goalie, best forward, and that was where I went with that. Jean, you can sort of defend your pick, and then we'll let Cory do his.
I just think that Vancouver had more or has more depth when it comes to the top end players than in Calgary and Vegas at this time. The only area that needs to improve or would be weaker than Calgary and Vegas would be the goaltending, but it's not bad. It's just not, the top end of the league. But the top 3 defensemen in Vancouver are awesome, and their top 6 are just unbelievable right now. So to me, that's it. And it's hard not to put Calgary second for me when you have McDavid and Alenyuk on your team, and then they have some really good players beside that with Stützle, but their top 4 forwards and Alenyuk are awesome. And then Vegas, as I said before, is really solid team that they're a defenseman away. If they added a top end defenseman, they could finish number 1 in the division. And as you can see, the top 3 teams are the top 3 teams for all of us. So Vegas could be number 1, Calgary could be number 3, and Vancouver,
And I'll say, sorry, before Cory jumps in, I'll say the difference between those top 3 teams to me is minimal.
Yep.
And I remember we had the same conversation last year, Jean, with the Metro, where it was like we had to pick 3 teams to be the top, and the difference between them was minimal. I see the same thing here. If 6 months from now the order is reversed of what I have, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm gonna blow this whole discussion up because there's a mistake here, and I had San Jose 3rd and Calgary 4th, and I definitely didn't have Anaheim twice.
Okay, well,
Uh,
you have Edmonton, and I was rushing typing because someone sent in their list really late.
Yes, indeed. But I actually have San Jose 3rd. But to talk about the top of the division, I had it really close. Like I looked at top end talent. I looked at balance. I looked at where your low end is. At both forwards and in defense. And then I looked at the goaltending, and I thought I really like Vancouver, and I think they're really close. But the goaltending is a little weaker. I love Calgary's top end talent, but I just think that there's way too much, on defense. I worry a little bit about how thin things are there. I don't love the defense. I don't love that Uyghur is your number 1. So that was kind of my thinking with Calgary, and I still really like San Jose a lot. I think they're a really really good team. So yeah, it might be a little homerish, but I will tell you I did this mathematically, which is the same way I do all my draft stuff, without knowing what the results would be. And when I got to the end, I realized that our team ranks in the top half of the division in pretty much every metric that I looked at. Whereas it seems like every other team has a little bit of a, whether it's Vancouver in goal, or maybe their forward, their strength at forward in the top 9, or Calgary's, the low end stuff for Calgary is pretty low, and are they going to get exploited? So that's how I came to this, or how the numbers came to this, really. So yes, it sounds like I'm a huge homer, but I think maybe Vegas is the most balanced team.
And I can't argue with that. Like I said, it was very difficult for me to pick between the top 3 teams. And I have I have edited the PowerPoint for you, Cory. I apologize.
No problem.
But there was very little difference between Calgary, Vancouver, and Vegas. And I really like how all 3 teams are set up for the year. It's just we have to pick.
I like all 4. I like all 4 of the top 4 teams. I think all 4 of them are the clear cut. Should all be playoff teams. I think. and then the other four teams are going to have a really hard time, making noise.
Well, I will say in your favor right now, Jean has you picked third, which I believe whatever team he picks towards the bottom usually does much better.
Yeah.
So it's to your advantage that Jean
It's a
didn't
skill.
get a win.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, we totally blew it at the end of last year and lost like 10 out of our last 11 games and
I
fell
remember
apart.
that.
So hopefully a little better result this time.
So you should just do it the way I do it, which is just suck all year long, and then
Right.
the disappointment spread along the whole season as opposed to just the last week.
There you go.
Okay, so Vancouver. I mean, we've kind of talked about Vancouver, Vegas, and Calgary. Cory, maybe why do you have Calgary behind San Jose?
Yeah, I just think that the bottom of their lineup is pretty tough, right? They might have to play like Scott Perinovich and maybe Hudson Fashing or Alex Turcotte, and those guys are, to me, probably shouldn't be in a lineup for a contender. I don't know what their cap situation is and if they have the ability to make moves and maybe, thicken things up a little bit to balance out the rest of the lineup. But the defense I think is pretty decent. And they got a bat. I think they, San Jose got a little bit of a bad dice roll with Saros, and I think he's a better goalie than that. That maybe the re-ratings hurt him, but I love Hughes as their number one defenseman. I think he's a monstrous upgrade over Weegar. McDavid and Kaprizov aren't all that different to me as far as what they're going to be able to produce. Obviously, in the real world, you take McDavid 11 times out of 10, but I think both teams are pretty similar in the top nine. But I think the Calgary, that bottom line, the defense a little bit, that last pairing defense is a little thin. And then, if something happens to Hellebuck, they're in trouble because, David Riddick is not a great goalie. And, you could say that about us too. I mean, Calvin Pickard is not great either, but I think, the fact that he's a little more experienced might benefit us and, has played some playoff games and stuff. But
I would say
yeah.
in real world, if I had to run with between one of those two guys, I'd take Calvin Pickard over David Riddick.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think those teams are close. And I think all four of these teams aren't that far off from each other. I know you hyped up the top three, but I think San Jose is right there too, just because of some of the top end talent. Their top end talent, to me, matches Calgary's. Kaprizov and McDavid are almost a wash. Hughes and Hellebuck are both among the best in their positions. And then, maybe you're a little bit weaker in goal in San Jose and you're a little bit weaker at the top of your defense with Weegar. But, I think that they're pretty similar teams, but a little more depth in San Jose, I think, especially in goal.
Okay. Jean, anything you want to add here? Like, I don't want to we don't need to talk too much about the bottom four teams in the division. Like, I think it's four teams that are going to be in the playoffs, and these four teams won't.
Yeah. So San Jose, I like some of the moves he's made this summer. I think he improved his team with some of the moves he's made. So I like that. I just want to touch quickly on my bottom four. I picked my bottom four because I think Edmonton is the worst team in the division, and I think LA is much better than the other three teams right now. But LA is looking to trade his players away, so I think that he's looking. Edmonton and LA are trying to lose, and I think that Anaheim and Seattle are going to make additions to try to improve their team. So that's why I did that. And yeah, so the rest of it, to me, it's a toss up with the top four.
Okay. I don't really want to say too much about my bottom four. Cory, if you want to, you can go ahead.
Yeah, the big thing for me with LA is if they have Allmark in goal, I think it gives them a chance to win some games. Edmonton, is not going to be good in goal if they move Kemper out. Jari and Dobash are not good goalies. I think Anaheim is clearly a step above. You know, I could see LA edging out Anaheim if they don't trade away some more of their talent. But if Adam Fox gets moved and they move Allmark, then I agree with Jean. It could fall apart pretty quickly. If you start selling off some pieces, which is fine. If you're not close, there's no reason to act like you're close, right?
Mhm.
So there could be decisions made that I agree with that might hurt them in the in the lineup and affect where they finish compared to where I have them.
Okay, so we can wrap there on that.
Yep.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you, Cory. That was great. You were it was great having you, someone who knows probably even more about than this than Jean does. So well done.
You guys are Canadian. You automatically know more than me. That's what
Yeah.
that's what the internet told me.
It's because we can read the toilet paper, because in Canada all toilet paper is hockey related. So
Well, I'm actually Adam and I and one of our friends are going to go up to Montreal in the first week of the season. We're going to go to the Rangers game on Hockey Night in Canada, so that should be fun against the Canadians. So looking forward to that and getting back up. I've only been to Montreal once, and that was for the draft. And obviously there were no games going on then, but got to hang around the city and loved it, and wanted for those two guys to experience it too. So, and then to get to go to a game on Hockey Night in Canada is pretty cool, and we'll see how that is.
well, I still like seeing you in the post game scrums. Every now and then we catch you in there.
Yeah, I'm lurking. That's because they all look to me to ask the first question because all the TV people are scared to ask questions.
Well, have you seen the TSN? They used to do the lurkers.
I got showed up on that once.
Yeah, I've seen you. I think I might have videoed it and maybe sent it to you too, because it was.
Yeah, I'm a chronic doing stuff with my face when I'm just sitting there waiting. I'm probably thinking, and I'll be like, so I'm perfect for that stuff. I'm gold for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I got a little bit of fame this year for asking Seth Jarvis a question that led to a funny answer. So Merrick had me on to talk about that because he thought it was funny that it was after he had tied Kevin Adams for the most shorthanded goals in a season in franchise history, and I knew he'd give me a good answer if I asked him if he was gonna end up being a GM one day like Kevin Adams, now that he matched Kevin Adams for shorthanded goals, and his answer was fuck no. So I know all you Canadians are excited about Seth, and hopefully he makes Team Canada again, because he is an electric player, just so fun to watch.
When in the 2020 draft, I was going to take either him or Dawson Mercer at 13, and Jarvis went just before. I think he went at 9 or 10 or something, which made my decision easy. But I love those two kids, the way they had played. So the fact that, and when Carolina took him, I knew he was going to be a hit. So
yeah, tough year for Mercer last year, but I really Jarvis, I think, is, he's got a bum shoulder, so he's been playing with a bad shoulder for 2 years, and the fact that he scored 30 goals 2 years in a row, and he wears a flak jacket and he can't even lift his arm up over his head, is pretty impressive. And I think I asked him at the end of last season, like, or is part of the reason you're not going to have surgery? Because I asked him, are you going to have surgery? Because I knew he was dragging around this bad shoulder, and he said it's part of the reason because of Team Canada. And he's like, well, yeah, kind of, but he's a great two-way player, really, and a good kid too. Fun to talk to, and he's as silly as you think he is. Some of the media try a little too hard to make him be silly, so sometimes, but he's a good guy to talk to, good quote, and they've done a great job with him, developing him into a great 200-foot player. And I think he's a perfect fourth line guy in something like the Olympics. Can score if you need him to, but he's not going to make that mistake and put the puck in his own net because he does something dumb.
yeah,
Watch him do that now. Watch him lose the gold medal because he turns the puck over. So.
The one thing I didn't realize about him was how great defensively and how great of a two-way player he was. I thought he was just offensive, when he came out of
Well, I think
WHL.
that's the part of his game he's developed over the last few years. Because he again, I watched him a lot. Like the COVID year was great in the sense that I watched a shit ton of these guys, and he wasn't as solid defensive. Like he's really made that a big part of his game now. So
Mhm.
The
credit to him.
the comparison I made was I don't know if you remember when Tiger Woods showed up and he won the Masters by 17 strokes or whatever he did, blew the Masters field away as a
Yeah.
young kid. And Butch Harmon was his swing coach, and Butch Harmon said, "You did great this season. Now we're going to make you a superstar," and said, "We're going to rebuild your swing from the ground up." And that's exactly what the Hurricanes did with Seth Jarvis's game. And they said, "Hey, you were great as a rookie. Now what we're going to do is we're going to build your game from the back of the, from your own end out and turn you into a 200-foot player." And that's why, I mean, I think there's thoughts about having him play center this year, because he's so good and so smart, and he's a tough kid. Tough kid. He's not scared. So Stankoven's the same way too. Kid doesn't have a
Mhm.
fear in the world, and he's the shortest 5'7" person I've ever seen. I can tell you that.
Hey, sorry, this is me going off now, like on hot takes or whatever. But that whole trade where you end up getting Stankoven at the end of it, I think Carolina is happy. Like they're going to be so happy at the end of the day to have gone through the whole thing they went through because they're getting Stankoven at the end of this is amazing. That's a huge win for Carolina.
And then they used one of the first round picks to get Keandre Miller this summer. So, and they still have another extra first round pick from the Rantanen trade. And Natchez, for as talented as he is, just was not a fit. And, so, I'll be curious to see how he fits in Colorado this season with a full year, because Nathan McKinnon does not stand for guys who want to freelance and do their own thing. And that's Natchez's game a little bit, is to go off script and try to do something spectacular. And Nathan McKinnon does not suffer fools. So I'll be curious to see how that all. Part of me wonders why, if that's why Natchez hasn't maybe signed an extension yet, is because he's probably like, I don't know if I want to spend the next 7 years or 8 years getting yelled at by Nathan McKinnon.
Well, wasn't he like, I'm sure during the playoffs, McKinnon was just yelling at him when they were coming off the ice.
I think McKinnon yells at everyone. So
Yes.
he yells at Jared Bednar sometimes. So and that's just who McKinnon is. But I'll
Yes.
be curious to see if that is a relationship. I think Natchez is going to either want to be a big fish in a small pond, or he's going to want to go to a city that is a big city. So, I mean, he could have been traded to Columbus and he didn't want to go there. There was a deal in place for him to go to Columbus at the draft in Vegas, and he wouldn't agree to sign long term there. So, and it was mostly just because of the city. Like he didn't want to go live in Columbus for, 8 years or whatever.
But I don't see him, because he's going to ask for a lot of money, and the
Mhm.
money he's going to ask for, the top teams won't be able to sign him
Oh, that's
because
why all you need is one dumb team. That's all you need is one dumb team. So
And there seems to always be one.
Chris Drury does a terrible job in New York, so I could see him throwing $10 million a year at him or something.
it's I wouldn't be surprised, because they have cap space now with all the guys they traded away.
And Panarin's going to be, Panarin's probably gone soon. So
Mhm. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I think it's not going to be a team that is at the top of the league right now that's going to sign him, like Colorado or Vegas, or
yeah, and he knows what he's worth just because he's tantalizing, right? I mean, he makes you salivate with his talent. He was probably the most naturally, him and Svechnikov, probably the two most naturally talented players on that team last year. And we'll see what happens with Colorado, but I'm really curious to see how he handles having to live up to McKinnon's expectations, because that guy sets a high bar, and good for
Mhm.
him. Like, hey, the dude wants to win. That's all he wants. McDavid's the same way.
And he lives it.
Yeah, yeah. Right. I mean,
He
Brindamore's that way.
expects it because
Right.
he does it.
Brindamore's that way. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that different. Brindamore's not a yeller and screamer, really. At least not out in public. But that's a guy who you're not going to outwork me. Like that was Brindamore's whole ethos as a player was I'm going to be the hardest working guy out there on the ice, and I'm going to be the hardest guy working off the ice too. And if you beat me fair and square, okay. And that's what McKinnon's like too, right? That guy, the food he puts into his body. I mean, I've had, probably more sweets this year than that guy's had in his 30 years.
Yep.
So it'll be fun. I'm looking for, we'll really start to get ramped up again this week. So, I'll be on the podcast again next year when I'm not running around like a crazy person.
Well,
So-
I'm gonna be I'll be looking for you when I'm watching the prospects games, because I feel like I'm the only person that actually will watch the prospect games other
Yeah.
than like the reporters.
Yeah,
Thankfully, most of them are on YouTube.
Yeah, the prospect tournament that they were playing in this year, a couple years ago it was in Raleigh, but they're doing it in Sunrise. So I'm not gonna go this year to Sunrise. So
Is it only
Um,
3 teams that they're playing?
it's four. It's Nashville, Tampa, Florida, and Carolina. So they just rotate between those 4 cities. So it's going to be in Sunrise this year, and I've spent enough time there over the last 3 years that I don't need to go back because that's a hellscape.
Oh, I
Okay.
didn't know that.
Where actually, to be fair, where the practice facility isn't bad. That's in Fort Lauderdale, where the hockey arena is. It's like a mall. There's like the second biggest mall in North America or something there, and that's it. And a bunch of chain restaurants.
Yeah, most of these tournaments are just in like Joe Schmo's arena. Like a lot of
Yeah.
them are just in small
Yeah.
little rinks. So
Yeah.
Oh, because that's where they're gonna get the fans, right? It's it's it doesn't mean anything, those tournaments.
Yeah. So
okay,
All right.
well,
All right,
I
boys.
think we can leave it here, boys. And
Yep.
well, thank you very much, Cory. It was awesome having you. You definitely brought our show IQ up about 50 points. So well done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it wears off. You'll be down 10 IQ points by the end of the night.
The second you hang up, I'm gonna go like just the dumbing will begin.
No, that's just me, my slow attrition into your brain. You'll realize how not smart I actually am. So
Okay, well, Jean, anything you want to leave with this one before we hang up?
Hockey's almost here. Can't wait.
Yeah. Next week
Wait a
we'll do
little
the
bit.
Atlantic. Next week we'll do the Atlantic. Stay tuned.